From bribery to redemption, Scott Jenkins, a former Culpeper sheriff, sentenced to 10 years in a bribery case involving a buy-a-badge scheme, was set to begin serving his federal prison sentence on May 27th. But there will be no time served. Ever. That's according to President Donald Trump, who announced a full and unconditional pardon one day before Jenkins was scheduled to report to prison. Let's retrace Jenkins' steps from federal convict to forget about it. At age 53, Culpeper native and longtime sheriff Scott Jenkins was convicted in December 2024 on serious charges, including 1 count of conspiracy, 4 counts of honest services fraud, and 7 counts of bribery. Prosecutors allege Jenkins ran a cash for badges scheme, accepting over $75,000 beginning in 2019. In exchange for the money, Jenkins appointed individuals, including a number of businessmen, auxiliary deputy sheriffs, granting them badges and credentials that gave them authorities such as allowing them to be able to concealed carry across all 50 states without a permit. This, according to prosecutors, was despite the fact that they lacked proper training, vetting, or any legitimate duties for the sheriff's office. In one case, the case of Rick Rahim, Jenkins also helped him falsely claim Culpeper residency so that he could restore his firearms right, as he was a convicted felon and had lost his ability to carry a gun. The prosecution's case was bolstered by the fact that Jenkins' 3 co-conspirators, 3 of the businessmen who were credentialed as auxiliary sheriffs, all pleaded guilty, including Rahim, who was a key witness and confessed to funneling tens of thousands of dollars to Jenkins, and outlined a detailed rental scheme that Jenkins used to help restore his gun rights. He also admitted that he facilitated a similar deal for a Fairfax attorney. Their cases painted Jenkins as a sheriff exploiting his authority for personal gain. The prosecution's evidence included text messages, videos, photos that included conversations about the deals, showed instances of what appeared to be Jenkins either meeting with individuals who were involved in the buy-a-badge scheme or accepting money from people who were reportedly part of the scheme. Not to mention that some of those who paid to get badges, whose badges were part of the evidence in the case, were reportedly undercover federal agents. Jenkins always maintained his innocence. At trial, he claimed the money, for example, from Mr. Rahim was a business loan for a venture they were planning that involved selling Make Virginia Great Again merchandise to Trump supporters. He also argued that the prosecution was politically motivated, pointing to his vocal criticism of Biden's border policies, his hardline immigration enforcement stance, and discussions he had about investigating Hunter Biden's laptop before his indictment came. Despite his attempt to put up a defense, the jury found him guilty on all counts. Then, in March 2025, Jenkins was sentenced to 10 years in prison. Acting U.S. Attorney for the Western District of Virginia, Zachary Lee, called out Jenkins for, quote, lies and abuses of power, and, quote, shocking disregard for his ethical and legal responsibilities. Lee said Scott Jenkins violated his oath of office and the faith the citizens of Culpeper County placed in him when he engaged in a cash for badges scheme. Lee also said, we hold our elected enforcement officials to a higher standard of conduct, and this case proves that when those officials use their authority for unjust personal enrichment, the Department of Justice will hold them accountable. President Trump, however, had a different view of the situation. A week after Jenkins was appointed an attorney for his appeal case, and a day before he was set to report to serve his sentence, May 26, 2025, Trump announced his pardon on Truth Social, calling Jenkins a wonderful person, saying he was persecuted by a, quote, corrupt and weaponized Biden DOJ. He criticized the trial judge for blocking exculpatory evidence. According to Trump, when Sheriff Jenkins tried to offer exculpatory evidence to support himself, the, quote, Biden judge, Robert Balu, refused to allow it, shut him down, and then went on a tirade. Trump said Sheriff Scott Jenkins and his wife Patricia and their family have been dragged through hell. Trump said Jenkins was persecuted by the radical left and, quote, left for dead. That latter comment may have referred to the fact that Jenkins had argued for leniency in sentencing, citing several reasons, including years of battling obesity and high blood pressure, as well as poor physical and mental health. In the end, Trump said, as President of the United States, he saw fit to end Jenkins' unfair sentence and grant him a full and unconditional pardon. He will not be going to jail tomorrow, Trump said, but instead, he will have a wonderful and productive life. If you're covering the Jenkins case, or you're just that type who likes to rummage through the thick of it, cut your research time with the Scott Jenkins Journalist Bundle. It contains a wealth of information in one place that cuts down your footwork. This includes a range of information from the original indictment, press releases from the U.S. Attorney's Office, sentencing memo, and even the recent attorney appointment for Jenkins' appeal case. You can find the link in the description.